Hello everyone, my name is Danny. This review is for the movie called The Goldfinch. This is a 2019 film. I just saw it in theater yesterday. It is rated R, I guess. And it runs 2.5 hours. It is a little long. I knew that going in though, for once. I usually don't check on the runtime, but I had to for this one. It's directed by John Crowley and stars Oaks Fegley, Ansel Elgort, and Nicole Kidman. Theodore Decker was 13 years old when his mother was killed in a bombing at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. The tragedy changes the course of his life, sending him on a stirring odyssey of grief and guilt, reinvention and redemption, and even love. Through it all, he holds on to one tangible piece of hope from that terrible day, a painting of a tiny bird chained to its perch, the goldfinch. I think it's pretty obvious that there's not much in theaters lately. I had one review last week. I'm probably only going to have this one this weekend. There's lots of sports on TV. There's lots of stuff to do around the area, and they're just not putting anything out in theaters really that interesting. So this is like the one that I really wanted to go see in theater this week, and I was happy to see a couple other people like Luke Wilson in this movie, and it does have a pretty good cast from top to bottom with the kids and the adult actors. And even though it's long, it has so much in it that really I wasn't bored at all. There was a couple times when it just seemed to be repeating the same thing, but there's not much you can do there, so there we go. That'll help the buzzes and dings there. So, moving on. I was not bored with this movie. There was a lot in it. The cast was very good. I'm just going to put my pad down a second. There we go. And I'll tell you, I'm enjoying seeing Nicole Kidman more and more. She really does make movies for me. And, she is the important thing of movies. And so I think she contributes to this one a lot. I kind of wish that they would have used her better towards the end. And she's just kind of there for like emotional guilt towards the end. And it just kind of shows like her from a distance, and it shows her smiling at our kind of main character. I think his name's Ansel. And he's been in lots of things, and I can't say too many of them have been all that great. He's been in very different movies. He's been in very interesting movies, but this just kind of chalks up his acting experience is just being in kind of weird movies. They're very weird. They're very tense. They're very dramatic, but they don't have much of a point. Like that's most of all of Ansel Elgort's movies. So, I'd say my biggest takeaway from this movie is that we know what's coming at the end. Okay? When you walk into this movie, you know what's happening at the end. So this is 2.5 hours of storyline, of build-up, of character development and relations, and to see what happens to our main character, to see what happens as certain information is released, because it is a longer movie. They do take a little while to let you know about this and let you know how that happened, let you know why this was a certain way. And so I think that's like the biggest thing, is that it's a very longer movie, but it handles itself in an interesting way, and it lets you know about certain things throughout the movie so that it doesn't have to release it all at once and like just have like 2 hours of movie and then half an hour of surprise, kind of like an Ocean's movie or something like that. And a lot of movies are successful either way. It's good strategy either way, really. So, like I said, I think the Goldfinch handles it fine, um, with releasing information along the way. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And maybe, people might be a little turned off to the language. Like, when I said at the beginning that this is rated R, I guess, it's because there's lots of language. There's lots of drug use, mostly by the teen actors in this movie, which is obviously frowned upon, but it's reality. To kids in small towns in the middle of nowhere, what do you do after school? I mean, but as to that point, our main character, Theo, his father, grows up being kind of an alcoholic. And it really is sad to see a character follow in their parents' footsteps, but I guess that's kind of how things happen. Like, that's what we think would happen to kids in bad situations, I guess, is that they would lead, where their parents were. But it's sad to have that happen when it does happen. In this movie, you're cheering for Theo to turn it around. You're cheering for him not to go down the path he's going down, but who's around to tell him otherwise? So that's just kind of how that goes. And I think it's a really sad situation. But if in real life you're struggling with that kind of stuff, it's not for kids to follow in the same path. So hopefully, people are able to, grow up nowadays with, some kind of classes or some kind of mentor that, will lead them down the right path. Because that's kind of a tough situation. And it's hard to talk about, so I'll leave that there. All in all, I think that the beginning of this movie is really kind of nice. Like what's happening with Theo and everything, and the characters that they build up and how they bring them back later. Everything's very interesting. There's a couple scenes towards the end that don't get any explanation, and they just kind of keep the movie going. And honestly, I was kind of expecting something bigger out of the ending. I was expecting. I can't really give all my thoughts because I don't want to give the movie away. Because people who go to see this, you will enjoy it. People who are hesitant to go see this because of the length or because of the idea of the movie, um, you know, give it a chance. It's not boring by any means. It's a good mystery with the way that they release information, release information, release information. There's a lot of stuff going on, and sometimes it feels like not that big of a mystery. Like you're not being surprised at all, but the way that they handle it, they're acting like nobody knows what's going on. And so they are really bought into their own idea here. And that's always entertaining because you can tell that people are working hard. We have a character in here named Boris. The adult version of Boris turns in an amazing acting job. Like he is very intense, he's very sincere, and I mean, goodness gracious, I mean, and then you have Theo having potential to get married, the adult version, and that girl is a complete, bimbo, and she doesn't really know how to handle her lines and her emotional direction and why she's doing a certain thing. So it's kind of an up and down movie that way, but otherwise they just leave a little bit to be desired at the end. Like I wish they would have even included more because it is already 2.5 hours. Why not just add on 10 more minutes and explain what happens to these characters, and that's all I really wanted to know at the end. So, all in all, I think I was a little disappointed by that part of things, and otherwise, I enjoyed the rest of the movie. So, I think it's going to be a very hard movie for people to decide if they like or not, or if they want to go see or not. And I hope people give it a chance. I'm glad I gave it a chance. I can't explain to you what's wrong with Ansel Elgort. I hope I'm saying that name right. But his movies just have a feeling about them that just kind of drag it down. And I don't know what's wrong with him, but it's it's him. And it's fine that they included him in this movie and gave him the main role, but the way you don't reply to people when they say something to you and then they walk away from you saying, "Oh, okay then," and it's like you got to fix that about yourself, Ansel. I think you have that in every movie you're in, where you just kind of stare off into space, and you got to change that about yourself. Otherwise, I'm gonna stop investing myself so much in your movies because you make really neat ideas of movies, but then they turn out like this. So even with Nicole Kidman, even with Luke Wilson, who turns in a pretty darn good short appearance in this movie, I've got to give this movie a C. And I think that's middle of the road. I think that leaves something to be desired by some people, and understandably to the people who are kind of mad with this and kind of bored with it. So I think it's just one of those kind of middle of the road kind of movies, but I did overall enjoy myself. I just wish there was more. I wish there was some better stuff, but I think that's a fair thing to say. So a C for the Goldfinch. Thanks a lot, guys. My name's Danny. If you like this or my other videos, try and get some of them watched. Like and subscribe to my channel if you would. Enjoy your movies. Thanks.